But yeah, appreciate everyone being here. This group has grown over 150 people now that participate. Obviously, we can't all be here every week. We have clients to take care of and business to run, but pretty eclectic group of doctors, lawyers, scientists, professors, PhDs, PharmDs because of my industry, a lot of entrepreneurs, and then of course business leaders like yourselves that come together and learn from each other. Network, of course, is part of our whole agenda here, and to refer business. I've always loved connecting people and referring business, and so that's kind of the mission of this group here. Is I really live by the teachings of Zig Ziglar that you'll get all you want out of life if you help enough other people get what they want. And more recently, Tony Robbins talks about the secret of living is giving. And so that's what we want to really be focused on is giving referrals and helping people get connected with those that they're looking to get connected with. So if you're involved with networking, this is a great place to be. We always like to have someone from the group present and give us an overview of what it is that they're an expert at. And today's presenter is Preston, and we're looking forward to his presentation. If anyone else would also like to the opportunity to present to the group, we're scheduled up through December 14th at this point, but anything after December 14th is open. So just let me know what your availability is. We still have the 21st of December. If we meet on the 28th, that'll be the next Thursday, and then we're into January 4th.
I just wanted to bring up that Mike graciously gave me his slot on the 16th, but I don't think there's been one that's been reset up for him. So I just don't want to forget that. Okay.
Yep. No, that I had you down as the first available. So I'll the second week of December. So I'm moving Mike to December 14th.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. And then of course the November 23rd is Thanksgiving. We won't have a meeting or meet that week. So awesome. Well, again, appreciate everyone being here today. Let me make sure that Preston, you have the ability now to share your screen, and we'll turn some time over to get to know Preston better.
All right, Breck. Well, hey, thank you. I definitely appreciate that. I did go ahead and prepare some slides. Hopefully, I won't need all of them, but I figured it would be better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. So does that look good to everybody? Can you see it there?
Yep.
All right. Okay. And now I know it's one thing to be good at what you do and to love what you do and enjoy it. It's another thing to get your name out there and let people know about you. So I'm definitely thankful to be here in front of you guys today. So the firm I work for is called Vistacema Wealth Management. We're an independent firm. That's one of the things I like the most about it. We contract individually with each client. So we're not at a Vanguard where we only have access to Vanguard stuff. We're not at a Fidelity where we only have access to Fidelity stuff. We're independent, so once we meet with people and we figure out what the job is that needs to be done, we can go ahead and use the best tool for the job without regard to, anybody else looking over our shoulder and telling us what to do. All right, let's advance here. All right, so I remember a few different times, pharmacy is a wonderful profession, and I would never say trapped. Of course, we don't want anybody to feel that way, but I remember a few times in my time there, feeling a little bit cornered, which, by the way, I probably should mention. So before I started in this field, I worked almost a decade as a pharmacist. So 5 years at a chain, at a big box chain, and then 3 years at an independent. And then this opportunity came along. And so here I am now. And the first time I kind of remember feeling a little bit cornered by the profession was actually in pharmacy school. So I'm in pharmacy school. And during the lectures, we kind of learned that hey, like you really got to be there in community pharmacy as far as service goes for your patients, because they can go to any pharmacy and get the same product. And most likely, and this was a little bit in the past, some things have changed, but most likely they're going to pay basically the same price for it. So if you're going to differentiate yourself, it's going to be on the basis of service. So I kind of had that thought swimming around in my mind, and then I realized like, hey, so at some point the thought came to me like, it doesn't really matter which degree your pharmacist has, whether it's the good old bachelor's of pharmacy degree, which one of those is a golden ticket. If you got one of those, that's, or the doctor of pharmacy. Either way, the reimbursement to the pharmacy is going to be the same. So I got to thinking like, well, hey, isn't that like a pretty strong market signal that this degree isn't worth any more than the other degree that somebody paid, you know, half or a third for? And I brought that up to one of my professors, and the comment was just like, yeah, retail pharmacy is in a little bit of trouble. And then we moved on to the next thing. We were at a Coumadin clinic. We just moved on. So I was like, okay, cool, good to know. I'm halfway through the program, and we're in a little bit of trouble as far as the area of the profession that the majority of pharmacists practice in. And so that was the first one. The second time, I remember feeling just, you know, a little bit cornered by the profession. I was at the chain, at the big box. I was doing the best I could, but I kind of felt like I was in this three-way, you know, kind of triangle of a relationship where I couldn't keep all three people happy at the same time, between the patients at the pharmacy, the leadership at the chain, and then my family. Right? It's kind of like the relationship between cost and speed and quality, right? Like you can pick two, but you can't have three. So it was like I could keep patients happy and I could keep my family happy, and then leadership was disappointed. I could keep leadership happy and I could keep my family happy, but then the patients weren't really getting a very good experience. They were just kind of being churned through the machine. And then it was like I could keep patients happy and I could keep leadership happy, but then where does that leave my family? So I felt a little stuck there. And then, of course, the end of my pharmacy career, when I'm running a pharmacy that my friends own, and my friends have to come to me and say like, hey, you know, you're going to need to start looking for other things. That financially, it's just not working, and we've got to close up shop. So pharmacy is a fantastic career, but sometimes those feelings can come along. And so the reason why I like doing what I do, trying to do what I do for pharmacy owners, is because I wouldn't want somebody to dedicate to the career and then feel trapped, right? Feel like I've got to be behind the bench until I'm 70, 75, or 80 to make it financially. I want them to have what they want in retirement. So that's what gets me out of bed every day. And so before I jump into this particular line of business, we put together a little bit of market research. And so these are kind of the things that we noticed. And I started first with interviewing pharmacy owners, and kept hearing the same thing from them. Their main problem that they face is cash flow. And so I thought that was interesting. I got going on that. And then as I was working on the research, we kind of determined that if you're going to keep your same lifestyle in retirement that you have now, you know, your average pharmacy owner, they might need to have saved about $4 million for retirement if they want to keep the current spending levels going, which I don't know why anybody would put, you know, 15, 20, 30 years into pharmacy and then say like, okay, well, when I retire, I'm completely happy cutting my lifestyle in half. Nobody wants that. And so then when I found that number, I got talking to some industry experts, and I found out, well, geez, man, when these pharmacy owners, they go to sell the pharmacy, you know, it's going to be worth, you know, between $300,000 and $1 million, depending on how well the business is being run. And my thought was like, well, that's a huge gap between those two numbers. And so at first I thought like, okay, that's what I need to do. I got to get out. I got to raise awareness. They need to know like, hey, you're going to need about this much set aside. Your pharmacy, it's only going to be worth about this much. You've got to take some action and do something to fill that gap. But as I got into it more, I thought I kind of have learned and realized like, okay, you know, these pharmacy owners, these pharmacists, I went to pharmacy school, very intelligent people. They're not blind to this stuff. They know they need a lot saved up for retirement. They know that the pharmacy is probably not going to be worth enough to fund that retirement. And it's that feeling of feeling stuck, that feeling of feeling trapped that I'm trying to address now. I guess I would say cornered, just so that, you know, I'm trying to get the awareness out there so that they feel like that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, like they can serve patients, they can run a successful business, and then they can ride off into the sunset and enjoy their life when that, whatever that looks like for them. So first thing here, did you know that getting a plan in place that's specific for you, it's not as difficult and time consuming as most people like to think. I've heard that dealing with your finances is sort of like eating vegetables. So everybody knows, you need to do it. I hate vegetables. I know how good they are for me. I have to blend them up and drink them, or they're not a part of what I do. And talking about finances is like that as well. So the way we like to do things, probably the worst possible way that it can be done, other than all the other ways. So it's not always incredibly satisfying. Sometimes it can be difficult, but we feel like it's the best way to do the job. So what we do with a person, be it a pharmacy owner or anybody else that comes to us, we start with what's important to you. We've got to have that down. What's important to you? Why are we doing this? We need a reason why we're doing. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. And if a client doesn't have that down right away, that's okay. That doesn't keep us from getting started, but it is something that we want to have nailed down so that it's guiding the decisions that once we know what's important, then we've got to figure out what does that look like financially, and pretty much, how much is that going to cost? Because then we can put a plan in place that's going to get us there. We've got to know where we're going. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter which track we take, the old Alice in Wonderland thing. And then really, once we've got that established, what we want to do is put a plan in place, going to give you the greatest likelihood of having success with the least amount of risk possible. And so those are our goals every time we get to know somebody. And really, once we get going, we like to take a balanced approach in everything that we do. And when speaking with pharmacy owners, it's really, really easy to kind of liken this to the same process that is supposed to be going on anytime somebody gets a new medication. So as far as the fiduciary standard goes, we're fiduciaries. We're legally obligated to our clients for every piece of advice that we give. And so I like to think about that in terms of a medication as safety. That's kind of like the minimum bar. You shouldn't be taking any medications that aren't safe to take. So we've got to clear that bar. And then when we talk about the risk management aspect, we've got to have a plan in place that's going to get our clients where they want to go. But if it's uncomfortable for them as far as their appetite for risk, then the desire is there to bail out early, and then they don't reach their goals, and we no longer have a client. It doesn't benefit anybody. And so as far as medication goes, I think of that as tolerability. Like, sure, something's safe to take, but your patient's also got to be able to stick with it. And then we get to the performance aspect. We can get to know you really well. We can build a plan that's perfect for you. But if what we actually put in place doesn't work, it doesn't matter. So it actually has to work as well. And so when you're thinking about medications, it's got to be safe to take. Someone has to be able to stick with it. It actually has to do the job. And then the last part is expense. And kind of like I mentioned at the beginning, once we've got the job defined and we know the tools we want to use to do the job, we're obligated to do that for our clients in the least expensive manner possible. And it's really been kind of cool to see in our industry, because for a really long time, this position that I have, financial advisor, really that was code for like salesperson. Right. And that anytime I go to some social event and I introduce myself as a financial advisor, everybody takes like 2 big steps back and they're like, whoa, what is this guy going to try to sell me? So everybody thinks, annuities, this guy's trying to throw annuities at me. He's trying to throw mutual funds at me. We're trying to do life insurance, all these type of things. But really our industry has changed to where, we come out from behind the desk where we're throwing products at people, and we come around and we sit next to our clients and we go through what's out there. And it's really been interesting to see just how that approach has driven down the cost of investing for most people. So this is kind of something that I see as far as the healthcare industry goes, right? If we take that fiduciary responsibility from where it is and we stick it to where it belongs, we can drive down even costs in healthcare. That's just a thought that I always have running through my mind. So you've probably asked yourself, this is called the old Uncle Jim syndrome. So we've got Uncle Jim here. Uncle Jim has just accomplished everything. He's got a story for you and everything that he's done in his life, and he makes himself out to be this amazing guy. He talks about his investments, like you go golfing with Uncle Jim and he's up 15, 20%. He's outperforming the market. And of course, Uncle Jim only talks about the winners. He never talks about the losers, but it gets us all thinking like, well, how come I can't do that? Why can't I beat the market like that? I'm just as smart as Uncle Jim. What's wrong with me? But it's actually really difficult to do. In our field, sometimes we can run into something that some people call it physics envy, right? So you can take a math problem or a physics problem. One thing that I really liked in school, you put the problem up on the board, we all run through the procedure, everyone ends up with the same answer, and we all go home. Unfortunately, in finance and economics and these things, there's a lot of assumptions that we have to make as a jumping off point because there's just more information out there than what we can deal with. And if you remember the old Ronald Reagan joke, that he talks about the can opener, right? There's the three guys, they're trapped on the desert island. You got a physicist, you got a chemist, you got an economist. The physicist says, okay, I'm going to climb the tree, I'm going to throw the can of beans at the ground, it's going to break open, and then we'll have our beans. The chemist says, like, no, we're going to lose too many beans that way, that's not going to work. We're going to put it in the sun, it's going to get really hot, the can will blow open, we'll have our beans. And then you've got the economist, he says, guys, you're making this way too hard. I know what to do. We're going to do what I do every day. All that we've got to do is assume we have a can opener, right? You assume the can opener, and then it's all downhill from there. And we run into that sometimes when we're making these models as far as trying to predict what's going on in the market, to where we set the model up and then we end up at the end and we're like, oh, well, guess what? Our model really just fed us our assumptions. So rather than do that, we like to be diversified and to try to illustrate the uncertainty that's out there. Here's a 5-day, snapshot of the market. Then we go 3 months. Still, I don't know if I want to be involved in that. We go 3 years. Okay, up and down some, that's cool. And then we start looking like, okay, 10 years. Wow, that looks like something, maybe I want to be a part of. We take the S&P all the way back to 1990 and it's like, wow, that's really something that I want to be a part of. So things can seem uncertain, but when we take a diversified approach, then the course, really seems obvious. So when we're helping people actually put the plan together, actually put the plan in place, when we ask like, why is your money invested the way it is? There really should be only one answer to that question. And that answer is because it's going to give me the greatest likelihood of reaching my goals while taking the least amount of risk possible. And so when we set out to build these things, we look at things like company size. We look at things like, what are these companies doing with their money? We look at how do they make their money? And we really try to diversify. And we get to the point to where we can even talk to our clients and say like, okay, so of course these boxes are blank, but we can say like, okay, you have these positions to give us this exposure. We have these positions to give us this exposure. All the things that are in the portfolio, they have a specific job and they're there to accomplish the job. And since we're independent, we don't need to have anything in there that doesn't have it. And so that part of it is just really exciting to me. The matter of getting to know people and finding out what's going to be best for them and putting it in place and seeing the difference that it makes in their lives and being able to support my family in the process, that stuff just gets me really excited. And I put up this last slide here to kind of illustrate the fact that we know, when we put these things together, we use, the weight of evidence of the past, right? And so we know that crazy things are going to happen. So when they do, we don't feel too unsettled because we have a plan in place, right? So when we look at the data, if you just look at some of these like, oh, the Lehman Brothers thing, okay, that's in the data. We know something like that could happen. And you can just pick these at random, right? When the euro came out, something like that could happen in the future. .com bubble, something like that could happen in the future. Even what we're going through now with COVID and with inflation, those things are baked into the cake, and we know that those things are going to happen. Unfortunately, we don't know when. If I knew when, I probably wouldn't be on this webinar right now. I'd be, on a desert island somewhere. So we don't know when, but we know that they will happen. And putting a plan in place that covers that just gives our clients peace of mind and security. And so that's what gets me really excited to do the job. And the last thing that I would say, definitely don't work with me, don't work with any financial professional unless they can answer this one question. And that is, how exactly do you get paid? Right? That's, of course, we've always got to talk about that. So the way we do things, we're providing a service. So we charge for a service rather than a product. So it's based on the account balance. It's billed quarterly. And the cool thing is it keeps our interests aligned. So as our clients do better, we do better. If our clients suffer, we suffer. It keeps all of our interests aligned. It keeps us focused on our clients because, of course, we do everything that we can. We do the very best we can because we feel like doing the job the right way is important, but we know people respond to incentives. So when they set the company up, they're like, hey, why don't we just go ahead and align all the incentives as well, just to make sure that we're all pulling in the same direction. So I know I went through that kind of fast. I have a tendency to talk fast, especially when I'm excited about something. And I don't want to take up too much time, but maybe if we have some time for that, if we could open it up to some questions that I can answer for anybody, I would be happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's open it up for questions, and thank you for that presentation. I mean, my first question is, there's a lot of people out there that do similar financial planning, right? What differentiates your approach?
Absolutely. So I appreciate that question. So one of the things when I was talking to pharmacy owners about what they want in a financial advisor when I put my market research together is they said I really want somebody that knows and understands the business of pharmacy. And so I think bringing that perspective to them and just understanding how all over the place their cash flow can be, how difficult things are, helping them put a plan in place that they can trust so that when they're deciding like, okay, all the numbers say that I have this money to invest, but do I really want to invest it? Do I really trust this plan, or should I keep it aside? Being able to offer them that comfort, I think, really differentiates.
Okay. Other questions? Bob, you're
Hello.
here. Just gotta unmute you.
Muted, Bob.
Oh, there we
There
go.
you go.
Okay. So, what locations do you service? You all of Arizona? Tell us.
Good question.
Oh yeah, thanks, Bob. That's a great question. So we have clients all across the country. Firms like the one I work at, when you're a certain size, you've got to at least be licensed in the state where you conduct business. Once you get big enough, you're licensed nationwide. We're almost to the point where we're licensed nationwide. But right now you're allowed to have a limited number of clients in each state. And so we do have clients all across the country. If someone's comfortable working remotely, I'm definitely comfortable with that.
Thank you.
You got DeMar and then Patrick after DeMar.
What is the time frame that you when you sit down with a pharmacy owner, what kind of time frame are you setting up the financial plan for them, kind of looking at?
Okay, DeMar, yeah, that's a great question. And it really is individual to the client. So what we want to find out, of course, first is, like I mentioned, what's important to them, and then what goals would they need to accomplish in order to fulfill that purpose. And then we can build a plan around that. Typically, if you're talking about investing in the market and you're really looking for growth, it's more like the 3 to 5 year time scale, but there are things that we can do shorter period of time too. Of course, we're not going to say like, we'll double your money next week or anything like that. When you're looking for serious growth, it's more over a longer term. But we can set things in place really for any period of time.
Okay. And I assume that you also talk to them about how to manage profits so that they're so that they're paying the least amount of taxes, and they're structured, or you wouldn't probably get into the structure per se, but how to best manage their money, because as community pharmacy owners, they typically, when they first start out, they have a cash gap.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they become more experienced and they're in the marketplace, they're sitting on money just because they fear that they may end up back at that same point where you know, they're wondering about payroll. So how do you help them to get the most out of their money?
Exactly right. Okay, so that's a fantastic question. So of course, my focus as a financial advisor is on planning and preparing for retirement and investing the money appropriately according to their goals. But I've been doing everything that I can to network, and any of us on the call here who know Richard and who are familiar with Richard, I'm trying to build up a network of professionals like him where they can use their expertise and I can use my expertise, and then together we get the client the best possible solution. Which of course, I mean, I don't know everything, but I'm definitely confident in my ability. I could learn everything, but there's no reason why I need to try to be a Swiss Army knife when we can bring in specific tools for the job.
Cool. Thank you.
Patrick?
How you doing, Preston? Very interesting. So look, I come to you and we go through all the stages, and then I sit there and I say, right, how can I verify my trust in Preston?
Oh yeah. So so at which part of the process? That's a great question too.
Well, I haven't thought that through. I'm just going through the different
Okay.
stages you had. But my question, as I look, I'll think about it, Preston, and I'll get back to you in 24 hours or 48 hours or next week. But how, in the meantime, do I verify my trust in Preston and what he does?
Oh, okay. Well, I would say definitely through the process, the first couple of appointments, when we meet together, when we get things set up, when we get things put in place. But then, of course, also as we're off and running, as we're getting things going, depending on what the timeline is, what the client's goals are, we like to try to break things down. If 3-month goals are appropriate, 3-month goals. If 6-month goals are appropriate, 6-month goals, 12-month goals, and so on. And then as we're going on through the process, it's really easy for us to go back and check and verify, like, okay, am I hitting my goals? And is this putting me in the right direction? Because of course, it's really easy to sell certainty. It's actually very difficult to deliver certainty. So we believe that planning is a process. And as you go through the process and you see it unfolding, typically that's where it comes in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? What size of a nut does somebody have to have, like, to start investing? Like, is it a minimum? They've got to have 30,000, 50,000?
Oh yeah, so that's a great question. So as far as our fee schedule goes, it's kind of a sliding scale where the fee's a little bit bigger for smaller accounts, and then it gets smaller as the account gets bigger. And that way we don't have to have account minimums. You know, like if you open a firm and you think like, okay, so I want to charge everybody 1%. I've done the math. It costs me $2,500 to bring on a new client. Then you get an account minimum, $250,000. That's kind of roughly where those things come from. But since we have the sliding scale, we don't necessarily have a minimum. If somebody wants, if they're just trying to get started, we can help them put plans in place. If they've got big accounts that they need managed, we can help with that as well.
Okay, so there wouldn't be a minimum then? Somebody, if they had 10,000 to invest, they could come visit with you. Just the fees will be a little bit higher.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. So yeah, so there's not necessarily a minimum. Typically, we can add more value to a bigger client. There's more things that we can do, like especially when we talk about bringing in other professionals and things like that. Sometimes a really small client doesn't necessarily have the complexity to benefit from all the different options that are out there, but we could find something that would work. Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Preston. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate you presenting to us today. I think we're a small enough group that we can stay in the same room, and we'll just go around the horn and make introductions here. You know, quite often we'll split off and go into individual breakout rooms, but yeah, let's stay in the same room so that everybody can get to know each other. And I always like to start ladies first. And so Cheryl, you're up first on my screen. If you would introduce yourself to everyone. And then also, I know you've already done this, but if you're new to the group, it's great to go ahead and in the chat, put your information, your contact information up in the chat for us as well. So go ahead, Cheryl.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much. Did you know that you're leaving money on the table? Are you sure? Are you aware that you can put money in an account and borrow from it? We helped a family just in time. The daddy passed, and we had just put his plan in place, so his family was able to continue those goals that they wanted to without him. Are you prepared? Book a time with me and we'll look at your portfolio. So we're focusing on debt reduction right now, such as a great big thing in the world, and also just different ways for people to save money so that they can take care of their protection. So individuals, business, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Cheryl. All right, Cindy, you're up next.
Thanks, Breck. Great presentation, Preston. Really, really interesting. Love that you're focusing on community pharmacists. As we all know, and Breck always supports they could definitely use your support. So thank you for what you do. My name is Cindy Gordon. My company is Gordon Health Group. I'm an individual. I'm an independent health insurance agent, and I work with individuals, small businesses, and families to help them gain awareness of the different plans that are available. The industry is corrupt. That's all I can say. And people are not informed consumers. I like to educate people so they become informed consumers, to not just help them and guide them to the right plans that fit their needs and fit their family's needs or business's needs, but also to help them take control of their out-of-pocket costs. People don't realize that if you need an MRI and your copay, or you don't even have a copay for an MRI, self-pay, it's going to cost a couple of $100 as opposed to $1,800 for an MRI. So I'm a guide, I'm an educator, and a true helper. Thanks, Breck.
Awesome. Yep, thank you. Thank you. Autumn, you're up next. Love to meet you and hear more about what you do.
Good morning, everybody. I was invited by Bob, which I really appreciate. It's been great being here and listening to Preston's presentation. My name is Autumn Fancher. I own A to Z Business Solutions.
Unknown caller.
I do accounting, bookkeeping, consulting, and taxes for both personal and businesses. I specialize in process creation, implementation, and improvement, and cash flow improvement. So that's where my consulting specialties are. And I'm a generalist, so that I'm able and willing to help anyone. And I really love supporting women in business. That's my true passion. So thank you very much for having me in the group this morning. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, welcome. And if you want to provide your email to me, I send out just a once a week newsletter that says who the speaker is that week, and just a reminder of the meeting. Love to add you to that if you'd like. So
absolutely, thank you.
Let's hop over the pond to Patrick. Patrick, I know you're going to be presenting next week, but tell everybody what you do.
Okay, I was thinking of all you guys during the week because I was watching a film on Netflix called Pain with Emily Blunt, and I have to see the end of it, but my goodness me, are you guys in trouble over there? You know, what am I going to do to help you all out? But anyway, look, I will hold off till we meet next week.
Okay.
I share with you one of the greatest breakthroughs since the invention of penicillin and DNA, you know, since the discovery rather of these two things. And I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you, Preston. Thank you. So if I win the lotto, I ring Preston. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm your guy. That's right.
Yep. Yeah,
you.
you know, that pain issue is a big issue. I did a little post on tramadol a while back that has about 3 million views and 4,600 comments on it. So yeah, and somebody that knows how to keep people out of pain and making sure that we're being healthy as our men's health expert, Armand. Why don't you go next, Armand?
All right, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so I just basically guide people towards really enduring well-being and their desired physique goals by cultivating a holistic approach that's going to encompass having proper mindset, understanding nutrition, supplementation, exercise, recovery, and sleep, and then also how to optimize your hormones. This is all for long-term sustained results. And this is important for longevity. And that's another area that I'm into now. And actually, I'm going to be getting a certification on that over the next week or two. I've been studying it for a while. So I'm pretty excited about that. But my mission is really to help people who are facing these different challenges and comprehending what effective strategies there are, specifically for reducing actual body fat, not just losing weight. There's a huge difference between those two things. Enhancing their energy levels, getting them back to where they are, getting your mitochondria functioning at a better level because people don't understand some of these processes. And then restoring, increasing muscle tone. You need muscle for longevity, because you need to be mobile. You need to have good health and bone strength, joint strength. This also boosts your confidence and actually helps to mitigate the effects of aging. And I have different medical teams I work with to help support this mission. So if you or somebody you care about would like to learn more about what these processes are, what's involved, then I'd be more happy to schedule a call and do that. I do very extensive lab work, which is our cornerstone to decide how we're going to approach the corrective protocol. So I have other medical professionals that I work with on this. So there we go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right, Richard, you're up next. Tell us about how people need to be more conscientious about how much we're paying in taxes.
Thanks very much. Okay. We obviously do a bunch of things, but what I'm going to focus on today is what's called the SETC. This is the small employers tax credit. This is a tax credit that exists now. It will sunset, meaning it's going to go away on April 15th of next year. And this is for anyone who was a self-employed during 2020 and 2021. During those years, obviously, those are the COVID years. And you're probably all aware of the ERTC, which is for the businesses. They've been giving out billions of dollars to bigger businesses. At the same time, the government also put together this program, SETC, the Small Employers Tax Credit, which if you were impacted by COVID, who wasn't impacted by COVID, and it's very, very broad in the definition. There's up to $32,220 available for you if you paid taxes, if you had a Schedule C, which means that you're you are a self-employed, you're a sole proprietor, a partnership, an LLC that has not elected sub S accounting. These dollars are available to you. We have now made it automated. One of the reasons why it's not big is because it's small compared to the ERTC. Again, hundreds of millions of dollars out. But this is small, so we've got it completely automated. You can go online, learn all about it. You can identify whether or not you qualify and for approximately how much you are. You can upload your documents right straight to it, and the accounting firm that we are working with will actually do all of the filing and take care of all of it for you. There's a fee based upon your success. You can actually get your money within 10 days if you want to do it on a finance basis, just like any other tax input there. They will figure out that for you, or when you get your money from the government. So the dollars are out there. If anybody's interested specifically, yes, please. If you've got no problem, put your email in the chat, if you want me to reach out, and I'm happy to reach out for you with you to you on that for that. And then, by the way, if you know of others, some of you who are working with other clients, Cindy, I'm already talking with Preston. This is available for you. We can help set it up. We are working directly with the accounting firm, so we are happy to create a sub agency and have people bring this to their clients. It's a one. It's going to go around once, and it's gone. So I'll be happy to provide that. And if you've got want more information, obviously let me know, and I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Yeah, Mike Hayes, we probably need to get him connected with Alex and get that in front of all the Maxer group, because those are all the majority of those individuals are solopreneurs, right? Self-employed.
Yeah, these are, I mean, honestly, if you start thinking about it, anybody who's in real estate, anybody who is a loan broker, anybody who has their own home business, anybody, all of those people, they qualify because they were impacted, and the dollars are sitting out there for them.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it. Well, we need to connect offline and maybe get you into a couple of other networking groups. Joseph, I don't know that I've met you before. Why don't you go next? Introduce yourself to the group.
Sure. Hi, Breck. I think we've been connected on LinkedIn for a minute. I think you probably know some of my colleagues at my old school. But yeah, this is my first day at this this networking event. It's been great. I don't know if you looked at my past, but I have been a consultant pharmacist, medication therapy management specifically in the Northern Virginia area for the past 10 years, over 10 years. So yeah, it's great. It's kind of a combination of corporate and medication therapy management. So once you sent the link to me that this is a referral group, I wanted to hop in, see what it was about, because it's important that I just know what's going on in the industry, and just be able to network, meet other people, accountants, lawyers, other PharmDs, tax professionals. Because I am a 1099. Well, that's one of my. I work several jobs, but one of my jobs is a 1099. So taxes are very, very important to me. And so it's just important that I kind of increase my sphere of influence and just meet as many like-minded professionals. So that's really what I wanted to.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, Joseph. Now I do recall now that you said you're out of Virginia. I remember you now, and definitely want to get you involved in next Wednesday. Is the next community pharmacy new revenue roundtable, and that's specifically focused on pharmacy owners. So that'd be a great place for you to.
Yeah, that's great. If you can shoot me a link of that, that'd be great.
Be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody gets your contact information up in the chat, because we'll save the chat and send it out to everyone after this meeting.
I will do that for sure.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Professor Paul, you're up next.
All right, thank you, Breck. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and whatever part of the world or whatever day you're celebrating. I always have to say that because occasionally one of my Aussies comes in and they never tell us what happens because it's already tomorrow. I don't understand not sharing that information, but what are you gonna do? Hey, I just found a new, and I'm playing with it literally the last 6 hours or so, a Mid-Journey prompt that actually lets you create like 32 images or 64 images without seeing them. You see them in kind of in a table, and then you get to pick and so forth. So be happy to show you that in a one-on-one. I am looking at starting a class called ChatGPT, creating anything but a book, or everything but a book, because all of these classes are now, we're going to teach you how to write a book in a day. Can you do that? Yes. Yeah, kind of, sort of, maybe. Yes. So you can get it going. So I said, you know what? Screw the book. There's thousands of other things to use ChatGPT for. And so that's what the class is going to concentrate on, because one of the things is creating the ultimate prompt, which creates that posting, which goes into that Google business page, which goes into your LinkedIn and Facebook business page, so that all the people can then come and buy your stuff. So that's what the class is going to concentrate on. The registration will be in the Facebook group, which I put into the chat. And I'm also looking at creating a LinkedIn group with the same idea. And so I look forward to helping anybody out. And yes, Richard, I am trying to cross that threshold and pay those taxes. I know we joked back and forth and so forth. And I think I may not qualify for this last one, because I think that first pandemic year, I didn't file taxes. There was nothing to, that there was no threshold. It's like, why am I filling out all these forms? It's like, didn't make anything.
2021 has a higher payout by the government than 2020
Can I
does.
file retroactively? Can I still go back and file that? And then I don't know.
That's a good
Well,
question.
If you're paying in, the government will take your money anytime. So
Yeah, right. That's true.
Yeah. So.
Hey, one real quick chat GPT tip for the day. If you're getting too much information or it's not specific enough for you, here is a little cheat code. At the end of your prompt, type in, take a deep breath and think step by step. So there's your tip for the day to get very specific. All right. Damar, you're up next.
Okay. DeMar Lewis. I am a pharmacist, 40 plus years, transitioned to a business coach. And so like a lot of people here, really think that there's a real opportunity to help pharmacy change what they're doing and how they're viewed. I can't tell you how many times a day when I talk about what that I'm going to work with community pharmacists, they said, well, but there's CVS and Walgreens. You're talking about them? They're in the community. I said, no. And so, and of course, you know, I don't call them, you know, the dark side or anything like that, but I paint the picture that they're different and that there are true community pharmacies that are really focused on doing good. And so I help businesses or pharmacy owners make more money, work less hours, and hire and retain good people. And so from that standpoint, I've put my information in the chat, and would love to talk to you about that.
Awesome. Thanks, Damar. Damar's a great support to my community pharmacy roundtable and to our future financial solutions for community pharmacists. So Mr. Mike Hayes, the one and only, this guy knows more people than I'll ever meet in 2 lifetimes. You're on mute, my friend. He's personally interviewed more people than I've ever met in a life.
Well, let me explain that. I started networking and interviewing billionaires and peak performers when I first started with NBC TV and radio networks in New York. Of course, I used the cloud of media to get to them. And I learned a lot from them, had a lot of mentors. And then I went on to CNN, did a show, Keys to Success. And like Breck said, I got to interview everybody from Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins and even Donald Trump, but also astronauts and even admirals of the NATO fleet. So there's really, and every major athlete working at the peak performance of their careers at the Super Bowl, World Series, Kentucky Derby, you name it. And I've been there, done that. And then I went into the TV infomercial industry where I helped my clients sell hundreds of millions of dollars of products and services. And then recently, and I've always been into networking in industries. I was known as the network king of the direct response industry. I didn't know everything, but I knew everybody in it. So recently, my wife and I were walking through our little town. We live in Lafayette, California, and we saw going to a restaurant that probably 60% of the stores, the storefronts were closed. And I started looking at San Francisco and what was happening there in the pandemic of store closings and really the catastrophes that this has been leading to. So I started putting this out, and I got contacted by a friend of mine about the research that Oxford University is doing, because he's in the Oxford MBA program. So he started sharing research with me about a city that had really created the most sustainable city model on the planet. And literally right now, and they talked about the future quicksand and opportunities. And that's what's ahead. So you have to learn how to navigate the quicksand, because there are going to be jobs and opportunities that are just going to vanish as fast as MySpace right underneath our feet. And if you're not prepared, people will be looking back at you in their rearview mirror. So that's what we are really talking about working with Breck, is research and resources in the health industry. And we're very excited about that. And we'd love to network with everybody here to share our vision and even start a competition about the most sustainable cities in the country. So we've got a lot of big plans, and it's just delightful working with Breck. So thank you for the time, Breck.
Yep, my pleasure. You have a quick comment or question, Patrick?
Thanks for that, Mike. Always interesting. There's another conversation emerging in Europe, right? And it is about clocks and daylight time and saving daylight time and all this kind of stuff. So this call, our clocks have gone back. Yours are going back this weekend. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So then we'll be in alignment again. We'll know where we are. But in Australia, theirs went back a couple of weeks ago, and they're now 2 hours earlier for me than they would normally be. It would be normally 1 hour, but now it's 2 hours. So the emerging conversation in Ireland is, why are we moving the clocks? You know, daylight saving or all this kind of thing. So that's just to let you know. That's just to let you know.
Yeah, Arizona doesn't move the clock. We caught on to that many years ago, or just refused to.
Any room there? I think I'll move there. Is there any room there?
There might be room.
Bambi, give us $50 and we'll let you in.
Yeah. Bob, give us the final word, Bob.
Oh my goodness. How do you follow that up?
Yeah.
You know, I think the key to what we are all talking about, the world's changing and is continuing to change. We got all this craziness. We got the Middle East going on, and you know, it's creating relationships. That's the best part about what we're doing, is that we meet people, we get to know them, and I've been running networking groups for, 25 years, something like that. And back in those days, everybody met face to face. Well, guess what? We get to do this on Zoom. So I didn't have to go drive anywhere to get to a networking group. But it's all so much fun. So I've been a LinkedIn consultant management guy for a lot of years, 17 years, got into the internet 31 years ago. That's when a 300 megabyte hard drive was the size of a washing machine and $40,000 to $50,000. Think the world's changed? I do. But yeah, listen, you know, let's just, building relationships is 99% of what we're all about. That's the battle. How do we pull people together and get them to see eye to eye? It's always a good thing. So my information's in the chat room if anybody wants to reach out to me. It's a complicated world, and it's going to get more complicated. I think we could all agree to that, right? No, what's happening?
I don't agree with you. We're not complicated here, Bob. You know, this is the uncomplicated group in the world. Not complicated at all.
Mike.
Yeah, let me comment on what Bob said. Networking is going to become more important than ever. And two reasons. One, there is so much fakery, and it's going to increase dramatically. So having personal relationships is going to become more and more and more important. Who am I dealing with? Are they real? That's one thing. The other thing, it's very important to get involved with AI now to keep an eye on it and to report it. I network with my U.S. congressman. He called it, it's like working on the atomic bomb project. Well, you can use dynamite for good or for bad. And we want to make sure that good-hearted and good-minded people are using AI and monitoring it and reporting it and legislating it and using it ethically and using it for good. So what Bob has said with personal networking, this is going to become one of the most important things to do to see what is happening as our world is changing.
Yep, absolutely. Well, sure appreciate everybody being here today. Preston, thank you for your presentation. Look forward to hearing more from Patrick, our friend across the pond next week. So don't miss it. We'll be here the exact same Arizona time. So that's going to change for some of you, West East Coasters. But Arizona is going to be at 10 a.m., which will be 10 a.m. Mountain Time next week. So make sure that if you're not in the state of Arizona, that just puts us one hour closer to you, Joseph, over on the East Coast. So it'll only be a 2-hour difference instead of 3 hours. So just remember that this meeting will be at 10 a.m. Arizona time, or Mountain Standard or Mountain Daylight Savings Time. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everybody.